Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Welcome to this session. My name is Mohan Kampella. I run product marketing here at BigPanda, and I'm thrilled and honored to be with Kiran and Wiley here with you. So, a little bit of backstory. So, my first introduction to Wiley way back when I was 16 was with a physics textbook called, by two authors, Resnick and Halliday. And for some of you, that name might ring a bell, especially if you've been around for as long as I have. And so given that background and the context and kind of, me having grown up on a lot of Wiley textbooks, I was really amazed to actually find out that Wiley's as a company has been around for more than 200 years. And Wiley's success has been defined over these years. Obviously, it's a long time. So over that time, it's been defined by its ability to respond to changing trends and boldly adapt to disruption. And today, we're talking about disruption. We're all living in this very massively disrupted economy here. And today, universities and corporations are turning to digital content, platforms, and services at unprecedented levels, as we all know. As COVID-19 rapidly accelerates these market trends, Wiley has been very nimble and agile in responding to these changes. And Wiley's strategy has been to fuel the future of learning that's already been underway, delivering online education tools, virtual and hybrid training products, and tech-enabled services. These digital products and tech-enabled services generate nearly 80% of Wiley's revenue today. And as this continues to rise, Wiley's organization is prepared to handle this demand. So with that, let me now introduce our main speaker for today, Kiran Venkatesan. So Kiran has been a principal architect with 20 years of IT experience. Kiran reports to Wiley's CIO as a service management architect, building innovative, next-generation, modern solutions by collaborating across different functional teams, such as product development, site reliability engineering, platform engineering, ops, and architecture. And with the mantra of customer first, quality first, and delivery first, Kiran has an extraordinary background building niche products in-house, exploiting technology, and pushing design thinking to the max. So let's now meet Kiran and find out how the IT ops team continues to support the business in the face of this amazing growth. Kiran, welcome.
Sure. Hi, Mohan. Nice to be here. Thanks for having me and Wiley here. That was a great introduction. You covered it out.
Great. So let's talk a little bit about. I know obviously gave our listeners a high level overview of your background and Wiley. So can you first of all, I hope that you and your family are doing well in these times. And maybe you could, in your own words, tell us a little bit about your business and what you do here beyond, my quick intro.
Sure, absolutely. Yes, family is good. Wiley family is good as well. And as some of you know, Wiley is a family-run business as well. So it's a long, a tradition and a long history, behind Wiley. So everybody is doing good. We are transforming, and it's great to be here. Just a quick, introduction, just to add on to Mohan what you introduced. Wiley is a global company that helps people and organizations develop the skills and knowledge they need to succeed. So we publish online scientific and medical journals, as well as offer digital learning, assessment, and certification solutions. Each year, we generate about $1.9 billion revenue. And each year, we also publish about 2,000 new books and 12 Nobel laureates, more than 500 in our history, actually. So Wiley also offers several higher education solutions, and just one of them, as much as like 2,800 courses and about 500,000 students from 1,100 universities each year.
Wow.
Right. To just a little bit focus on, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, yeah, that's pretty impressive. That's, a lot of detail that I had no idea about. I'm sure many of our listeners did not as well.
Sure. Yeah, at the same time, to just quote one of our flagship products, Wiley Online Library. We have about 1.7 million unique visitors and 4 million page views every day from about 25,000 institutional customers that we have. And again, we have a very diverse technical portfolio. We have legacy infrastructure, we have legacy applications, and all the way we have modern containerized cloud native applications with microservice architectures. So we do see, the whole, lay of the land here, and technology and tools like BigPanda and others, we are making advancements in this space.
Okay, interesting. So, and obviously the revenue numbers that you mentioned is pretty amazing. It's at close to $2 billion in revenue. That's pretty significant.
Mhm.
So, how has the business performed over the last 6 months?
Sure. So if we really look at it, right, we have a very diverse, portfolio here. And if you overall look at it, we have education, research, professional learning. Just the recent, if you look at it, right, just last 6 months, right, as we are in this COVID times, we had a very successful back to school season, right? We had a massive user activity growth across our courseware platforms. That's like Newton, Wiley Plus, Zybooks, Newton Alta. So it cannot happen without great technology and the product effort and the collaboration that's going on, between the teams. So I would say, we are about making 80% of our revenue over digital products, and we have a long legacy of about 200 years, in this space. And all along, we have helped educators, students, professionals, researchers, the community to help them get to the next levels. And in cases of medicine, help them to publish their articles into our journals and find the cure, for the next thing.
Impressive. Yeah, so I think the fact that Wiley's been around for 212 years, nearly 2 billion revenue and 80% boom in digital revenue, and the fact that you guys actually published more than 500 Nobel laureates, it's an exceptional story, exceptional brand. Uh, Makes me even happier to be to have the opportunity to host you and Wiley today. Uh, cool. So, with
Cool.
all of
Thank
that
you.
said, yeah, let's maybe switch gears a little bit and talk about the technology and your team, and especially obviously you have a bird's eye view, in your role about the platform, the team, the organization, etc. So let's maybe
Sure.
advance to the next slide and talk a little bit about that. So I guess broadly to set the context for this slide and this discussion, I would say, given the changes in the business and given the rapid increase in the workloads, right? How has the IT team, kept up with the demands of the business and supported it over the last few months?
Sure. That's a great question, actually. So, uh, can you see my screen, or I think there is some empty circles there. I'm not sure what's going on there, but irrespective of it, I think just trying to see if I can share my screen over here to fix that problem.
Okay. Yeah, I think there's some.
Yeah, about now?
Great. Yeah, perfect. Thank you.
Sure, no problem. So, while the IT as such, right, as I said, we have the lay of the land of legacy as well as the modern applications. I want to quickly highlight here. A couple of years ago, we had our new CTO, Arif Martin. Thanks to him, and very recently, about 8 months or 9 months back, we had Sean Mack as our CIO. So once Sean Mack, entered this space, we really see a lot of modernization going on, particularly in this IT, creating new IT functions such as cloud platform engineering, site reliability engineering, security with DevSecOps, and automated service management and autonomous operations. So these are the new functions being created, and to further facilitate, we have a lot of things going on such as cross-functional team enablements and things like that. So overall, with all these new functions, we see a good amount of modernization happening across the space. Actually, yeah. Over to you, back. Uh, Mohan.
Okay. Great. So that's interesting. So I guess that leads me to this question. So what's really, in your opinion, what's really driven this transformation?
So basically, like if you really look at it, uh, the transformation is mainly because of customers. Let's take us as customers of other products, right? Consumer products, let's say, digital or non-digital. We expect it to be available always. Maybe even if it's a public utility, our public utility is always available. We expect certain things to be always available, and so is the nature of the digital space these days, as we all know. And our customers, such as authors or researchers or students, expect our products to be available online at any given point of time, right? That's the core business case which drives all of our automation and enablement that we support and provide and power all the business products that we offer.
Hmm, got it. Okay. So maybe could you share a little bit more with us about how your teams are set up and your IT service model?
Sure, absolutely. So for a very good reason, in the slide that we are seeing, you will find the three-tier model on the right? The three-tier support model, which many of us are very, very familiar historically. We are always at level one, level two, level three. At the same time, you see for a main reason, we have the cross-functional delivery teams put up on the left side, because when we are embracing DevOps and the new approaches of Agile and everything, it's a core concept of shift left, right? So and so is the reason we try to upfront, right? Do many of the testing may be, or may be putting things into production and going on canary testing and whatnot, right? So we want to make majority of it in the shift left. That means, like, you build it, you own it, you manage it, but still at the same time, we need to have the overall umbrella visibility to everybody in the organization to cater to what's going on with a given business product. At the same time, the business product is not always standalone. Given an enterprise product, it definitely has its own integrations to backend systems one way or the other. So we need to cater to let's say correlate activities that is going around, which are powering up a given business product. So it's a key that we of course have a cross-functional delivery team model where we have developers build the software, quality teams test and deploy and manage, and in the embracement of SRE approaches, where particularly we have SRE engineers always on the site for issues and identifying the root causes as many as possible. So we do have this cross-functional delivery team model, as well as not to forget our legacy platforms and legacy applications, where still there are parts where transformation is happening. We still need to support both of these core models all along the way, at the same time keeping 24 by 7 operation center, which oversees all of this basically.
Hmm, interesting. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely and I mean, hats off to you and your team for obviously, successfully pulling it off. But it's a challenge that I know that a lot of customers have, which is, how do you, on the one hand, transform and be agile and respond to the market and the needs of your customers while making sure that you're also, in a very agile manner, transforming different parts of the business, right? Which your customers, of course, don't see.
Yeah,
You want to make sure there's no interruptions, that they continue to enjoy these extraordinary experiences with the Wiley products while you're changing things and making them better constantly under the hood, right?
absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, yeah.
Awesome.
So
So,
in that,
mhm. Yeah, go ahead, please.
go quite more.
No, I was just going to say, yeah, I think
Yeah, in
which
that.
was going to lead me to my next question. Yeah, cool. So, yeah, I was going to say, like, so based on that, and maybe this is where you're already going. If not, would love to have extra color, of course. Is so given all of this, like, how did you, start your enablement, or I'm sorry, your transformation journey?
Sure, sure. So basically, to achieve, that target state, which is really challenging, like you rightly mentioned, we definitely need to have some principles in place. And this is how, Sean envisions, Sean, our CIO, when he joined the company, he just said, two fundamental principle, guys, enablement and automation, right? So what does enable means, right? Enablement in terms of tools, processes, people to collaborate more cross-functionally, right? Say, for example, we have GitHub, Jenkins, right, which are all primary tools that we use, typically in the DevOps approaches and whatnot. They help us to, do automation, via CI/CD pipelines and having the code in GitHub, whatnot. But at the same time, this becomes more siloed, right? If you really look at it, yes, the certain group of people, a DevOps or a SRE, just have access to these tools, but that's not the case. It should be. It should be the same data that is being produced by these tools should be accessible to much larger groups, such as service management or monitoring, wherein we can easily, the given there is an incident or a situation. Now, having insight into this kind of a data helps you to reduce your mean time to resolution or detection and whatnot, right? So this is kind of the enablement. Again, the enablement is not only tools, but also process need to adapt to it, and then people in the culture along the DevOps methodologies has to also adapt to it. And when it comes to automation, let's probably think backwards about like a few years ago, where many of our enterprises were more on a traditional email alert management situation, right? Back then, we had less number of usage of the business products. Definitely, any business product may be, and there was less number of pushes to production, right? Because everything had like a waterfall lifecycle model, wherein you build code. I've been in projects up to like 10 months. You build the code, and when it's Thanksgiving, boom, there is a release, right? That's the kind of the
Yeah.
traditional other ways of doing things, right? But not anymore,
Mhm.
right? Now, like when there is Thanksgiving, you see competitive prices and whatnot. You need to push changes ASAP, right? So things have
Mhm.
changed. Expectations have changed. So definitely this requires automation, right? Automation starting from the point of detection all the way into managing the detected events, all the way into making them into actionable alerts or incidents, and then managing
Mhm.
them more actively, and getting in the right people at the right time, and so on.
Interesting. Yeah, it certainly sounds like a. You made it sound very simple, but I'm sure, again, under the hood, both CIO and you and the rest of the entire technical team, obviously, I'm sure there's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears that went into this to make it sound so simple and easy. So thanks for sharing that. So let's switch gears a little bit.
Sure.
Like I myself, for example, I'm very visual when I think of technology, and I'm sure a lot of our listeners are also, probably wired that way. So when I think about technology and when I think about tools, I always think, what is that, high level conceptual diagram that shows like how all these building blocks are connected together? How am I really the value that I get? What is really driving that, right? Which types of tools, etc. And you mentioned BigPanda before. Great, thank you, I appreciate the mention. But outside of that, I know obviously you guys have, like, other companies have a complex ecosystem of tools. So maybe let's talk a little bit about what that looks like. And let me switch slides, and I have a question. So again, to summarize in a lot of what I've been saying, so when you embarked on, again, on this slide, obviously you can see the event correlation and automation tools. So when you as part of your transformation journey, when you embarked on evaluating these event correlation and IT ops automation tools, what did that process look like for you? What was the evaluation being driven by?
Sure, sure. So very, very lately, with all the focus given to engineering and automation from Wiley, we also have been always thinking to develop tools and technologies ourselves, following the open source path. So in that same approach, let's say in the last couple of years, we did build our own alert console, and we did have it available. And by the way, we had a new operations center in Sri Lanka, from where we have
Mm.
our 24/7 operations going on. So they're our consumers, right? If you look at it, right, they're the real users of all the automation we are building. So in that per se, uh, now iteratively we have to think through what more we need to build, what more features we need to add. We need to add advancements towards correlating events using machine learning or AI and so on. So at one point or the other, we again revisited our strategy, thanks to Sean and Wes. Wes heads our operations basically. So we were in this path of, let's evaluate, our own stage where we are in phase, and then we'll also look at out in the market, should we build versus continue building, or go ahead and buy a product. So that was the scope, and then we definitely did look out, and then validated certain tools. For us, we wanted something which is very closer to our strategy, very simple, at the same time, and a core capability that could offer event management, right? That's the kind of the requirements we had on hand, and so we embarked in this journey.
I see. Okay, interesting. Yeah, that's a very, I would say, a pretty common scenario where a lot of enterprises grapple with the whole build versus buy dilemma. Obviously, there's pros and cons, and there's no one size fits all answer. So it looks like you guys also went through something similar before coalescing on the tool set that you had.
Hmm.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Right, right,
So
right.
so now,
Mhm.
okay. So I guess to sum it up and then kind of pull back or zoom out a little bit. So now that as a company, as a team, you guys are 1 or 2 years into your transformation journey. What's coming next, and what can you share with our listeners about what the future looks like from strategy standpoint, what you guys are looking to do.
Sure, sure. So first of all, if we look at this particular picture, I would consider this like a pattern or a reference architecture, right? So if you look at it,
Mhm.
we have major capabilities aligned together, and here is a model of the process model, how events can flow in, and what kind of capabilities we need to have. So I would say we have matured enough now, understanding first of all standardizing on our processes, standardizing on the tools, right? So that we have a right tool for the right purpose, and then it's a typical flow. I don't have to really explain all of it what is in the screen, but as anyone would expect, you're monitoring events being produced, and we need to as much as we are advancing in our deployments and automation, we need to have an ability to correlate the events across the ecosystem, right? And then if there is an actionable alert, then we need to have the right person at the right time to action upon it. So we need to page somebody, let's say, right, to respond to the incident. At the same time, on the right side, we need to still, hold the record of, all the activities that are happening, right, seamlessly, who attends to what and how long it took, and how do we improve our, management, over all these, issues and so on. So that's what, this diagram really encompasses. So in the maturity levels, yes, we have standardized on the tools, we have standardized on the integrations, and now we are into, the exercises of, let us say, okay, let's start being predictive, right? Good, we have this good set of tools. Let's start into predictions modes, and let's be more proactive, right? Not that we are not proactive right now. We do already have some level of automations, and checks across the tools, but we want to kind of make this more seamless across the tool set. How do we get visibility into all of these tools data, right? It's now kind of things are happening at the different tools levels. People get the visibility, but the real value, according to me, is when you start correlating all these events, right, along with the configuration database, let us say, and then pull up a mapping of given an impact on this particular microservice, let's say, what is the impact to the overall scheme of things, right? So that could help you to either proactively look for alerts, or even if it happens reactively, immediately kick off some remediation, let's say. So to
Mhm.
sum it up, two core things that I think we are looking for is to march forward is be predictive, as well as be able to have automation to support and remediate, as things happen or being watched for,
Okay.
right?
And that I think is an excellent, yeah, makes sense, makes sense. And that's an excellent segue into our next slide, which I would say is probably my favorite one. Well, there are many good ones, so it's hard to pick a favorite. But having said that, that's my favorite one because, like if you think about our listeners, there are probably a pretty sizable number who who are probably where you and Wiley were 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago, right? So they're thinking about how do they support their own transformation journey, obviously while making sure that they retain and deliver retain existing customers, deliver great experiences, and attract new ones and all of that, right? So long story short, where I'm going with this is what kind of advice or recommendations would you have for your peers who are likely listen in other companies who are likely listening to this session?
Sure, absolutely. So I would say start where you are. Definitely don't go and try to reinvent something. We definitely need to accommodate the transformation journey everybody is going through, the digital transformation. May it be agile transformation, may it be a DevOps transformation, or may it be a ITSM transformation, right? We need to embrace, all of this. These capabilities, one way or the other, really are focusing on the value stream, right? Any kind of approach or a principle. At the end of the day, how do you bring quick value to the customer? How do you make sure the lights are on at the customer's place, right, with the quality of deliverables or the products that you're offering? So we need to embrace these newer approaches of agile, DevOps, and SRE. and enable cross-functional teams. I see a lot of powerfulness in this. What I mean by enable in the sense is, especially after Sean, is here, we see right now we don't look at to which group we work or which function we work, but really a pool of people coming from different backgrounds, like come hands-on and come and solve the problems. So that's what really I see as enablement of cross-functional teams. Maybe development activity, maybe testing activity, maybe solution or architecture activity. We at Wiley, we have an architecture council led by Patrick. So where we really see all the architects coming together, architects and leads coming together from different divisions of the company, and periodically review each other's progress, what's going on. So it's definitely really a good enablement to really get value out of cross-functional teams, and all of us really focus on generating or on optimizing the value stream. As much as I said about the architecture council and the underlying principles, the core for our journey, what I've really observed is standardization and the patterns, right? Standardize on set of tools, standardize on set of patterns and the workflows, maybe ITSM process, or maybe some automation, like even maybe for the matter of CI/CD pipelines, have a standard pattern in place that can help you to achieve your overall goal and speed up your transformation journey. So for me, standards and patterns are very important. At the same time, it's not about just buying tools. I have seen and I've heard about stories about, yes, we have that tool. Yeah, we have that tool, but that's not the way. How do we capitalize on our tools, right? How do we get integration done through the tools, right? That is the core for me to really enable your digital transformation, success to your IT op. Every tool comes with one great advantage or the other, but look at opportunities of how do we connect these tools. Very, very simple. These days, every single tool comes with an API interface. Take advantage of it, right? May it be you probably not have the entirety of it, but I think some of the products that we are really working with really give us the capability to work through their engineering teams, so that we could put our feature request in place, and we could get them out, and then so that we can continue enhancing our business products and whatnot. And last but not least, definitely, like it says, automate, automate, automate. There's definitely not a full stop for automation. As much
Mhm.
as we are really looking to achieve the target state and the digital transformation here, I think enablement and automation is the key to get us there.
Mm. Okay. Awesome. Yeah, no, I couldn't agree with you more. We see this obviously. Obviously, you're seeing this at Wiley, and we see this with some of our own customers as well. But these are very good, I think, recurring themes, and really top of mind um, goals that I think enterprises really should have. So thank you for sharing those. With that, I wanted to, before we switch to our Q&A session, and I see that a few questions are starting to come in, I wanted to ask Kiran, is there anything else beyond what we've, shown or discussed? Anything else that you want to leave the audience with?
One thing I would say is I think have to start becoming more creative. IT ops, historically has been always thought as a separate team and whatnot. We definitely cannot be in that siloed approaches. Development has to also take care and own, their portions of the code all the way up into production and beyond production, supporting the customers. That mindset has to definitely change, right? It's not like you build and then somebody else supports it. I think Wiley, we have come a long way from that methods or the concept, and we are becoming very cross functional. So considering ITSM historically, even with ITIL and whatnot, we have to start looking at how do we do DevOps with ITSM, right? How do we have agility, bring agility through these methods? I think that's one of the core things I would say. And last but not least, always plan ahead. Look out for what's the next 6 months going to look like. Even from a program planning perspective, the recommendations I'm giving is that because we always think at least 6 to 1 month, 1 year ahead, so that, say, for example, as much as we thought about even management in this space, we are looking for, okay, we are able to achieve certain level of correlation, we're able to achieve certain level of aggregation on the alerts. But beyond that, what? How do we further reduce our incidents? How do we further be proactive? So think about AI and ML. That's where I see AI ops is in place, and tools like BigPanda and others really would help us to get to that next level, to use machine learning and correlation may it be clustering or may it be classification. You can solve all these problems with huge amount of data sets in today's world of alerts that are uh, quite prevalent from all these tools. So we need to have bring in more than human intelligence. We need to always also bring in machine intelligence to look at that machine data, to process them, and then to produce actionable incidents or alerts.
Okay, got it. Now that's great. Thank you, Kiran. Once again, I appreciate it. All the takeaways, and I think what you just said summed it up beautifully. So before we switch to Q&A, just to formally thank you once again for giving us your time today and for participating
Sure.
in this session. Sincerely appreciate it. I'm
Yeah.
sure our listeners do as well. So with that, let's
Sure.
spend a couple of minutes looking at some of the questions that have come in. And for, again,
Yeah.
just to
So
reiterate
thank
with
you so much. Yeah, thank you so much, Mohan, as well, for having us here. I've seen, your team has been a great support to our journey. Thank you very much.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you. Cool. So let's, yeah, look at some of the questions that have come in. Let's see. All right, and I think what I was gonna say was, yeah, for the audience, if you have any other questions, you have a Q&A panel in the console in the Summit console. So just add your questions there, and then time permitting, we'll get to them. So the first one I had for you, Kiran, is. You obviously talked about the importance of standardization and how you're able to accomplish that, and you highlighted the importance of that. So my question is, was there
Mhm.
any internal debates around the standardization? And if so, how did you manage the process?
Okay. I would not say there is any debate about standardization. I would say everybody embraces standards. We need to have standards to get things done. But there definitely are a good amount of collaboration and contributions coming in from different perspectives. Say, for example, we established a technology metadata, right? So technology metadata is going to contain certain attributes, definition of what an application is going to look like. So again, it's about one view or the other, but we need to pull in and collaborate to get that standards out there. So if you ask me, there could be discussions going to the level of attributes and saying this attribute must be a must have, this attribute must be a should have, and so on. But otherwise, I think holistically there is no debate about to have a standard, if that's what your question is about.
Got it. Okay, no, makes sense. So I have another question. This one is more on the metrics. So obviously, in your role and in general, I guess every business, of course, but especially operations, when you think about how we quantify the impact of what we're doing, we think about metrics. So what are some of the more important metrics that you and your team track that you might be able to share with the audience?
Sure. I think starting all the way left, I think the key is mean time to detection. We definitely are working towards, challenging ourselves time and again to have a mechanism, keep improving our monitoring and optimize our, tooling, and always keep reducing the time that it takes to detect a particular event, right? So that's a very, very critical attribute. If so something happens, then how do we first of all reduce the time it takes to resolve it? So mean time to resolution, let's say. So for me, detection, resolution, all along the way, acknowledgement of it as well, because resolution doesn't happen until one way or the other we acknowledge. It could be a system that acknowledges and remediates some action, or it could be a human that gets involved and remediates something. So MTT, D, A, and R are definitely quite critical. And definitely the other biggest thing is also reducing the number of incidents and reducing the number of alerts that are getting generated. So time and again, we keep every quarter by quarter, we go back and try to see how we can keep suppressing the noise that is being generated by the systems, right? So noise suppression metrics is also very key.
Yeah, yeah, makes sense. I think I would, yeah, like just based on what we hear from other customers, MTTD, for example, like as you mentioned, is obviously critical because a lot of times, I mean, unless you are able to detect a outage or a problem in a timely
Hmm.
manner, you run the risk of getting stuck in a reactive mode where you're always responding to things as opposed to being able to detect something as it happens, right? It absolutely makes sense. And of course, noise
Yeah.
reduction as well. I think, as we all know, in this very increasingly complex and more complex by the day type of IT environments that we have, the sheer amount of
Mhm.
noise generated overwhelms a lot of the teams. So really keeping an eye on that metric and really understanding how effectively your tools are able to reduce the noise makes a lot of sense. So yeah, definitely echo that. So thank you.
Sure.
And so with that, we have another question. So this is really more around, I guess, getting buy-in and acceptance for plans. And I think the context for this, if I can editorialize this a little bit, is what we hear from our customers and prospects a lot is sometimes you have obviously these change agents that have some very amazing strategic goals, and then it's a process to really get buy-in and acceptance for those goals across the organization, across the C-suite, right? So I guess the question we have
Mhm.
here is if you're able to share any details about how your new CIO when he joined Wiley, like how was he able to get acceptance for his plans on how to continue to accelerate the transformation?
Sure, sure. So I would probably start a couple years ago, right? Because there has been major transformation started a couple years ago, organization wide, or even few years ago, when we had our new CEO, Brian Napak, and followed by Arif Martin, our CTO, a couple of years ago, wherein the whole strategy about business and technology was brought more closer together, right? So the more closer and closer we try to align and get along, understanding either the business requirements or the operations needs, I think it's not feasible, right? So I think that's where it all really starts, getting alignment into functions, and then getting a business to technology alignment. And further, as much as you see our digital growth, that's around more than 80% of our revenues to digital. So that itself speaks for we need to keep embracing technology, as well as keep embracing methods of how we optimize and deliver value, basically. So I would say it definitely has been brought in by the leadership that we had so far, and we have seen a great progress in terms of acknowledging the needs that's needed for technology.
Got it. Okay. So I know we have just a couple of minutes left in the session. So with that, let's conclude the Q&A section. And thank you for the audience members that submitted these questions. If you have more questions, feel free to send them our way afterwards, and we'll do our best to get them answered by Kiran. Kiran, once again, thank you so much. This has been such a great session, and I appreciate the opportunity to moderate this with you.